My name is Christina Nikolic. I teach some of the organic land care programs for Gaia College.
And how long have you been doing this?
Oh, for the better part of the last 12 or 13 years, 2005.
And how did you get started in this?
I came from the prairies and moved to Victoria and was delighted to find the Society for Organic Urban Land Care and also Gaia College. I took the first online courses that they had just developed, became a certified organic land care professional and started teaching as soon as I was ready. So now it's great pleasure to put into practice what I'm learning and what I'm teaching.
It's a lovely garden.
Thank you. It's my playground. I don't consider it work. Yard work is really just an excuse to get away from housework. Well, we'll do some fall cleanup for the lawns. We'll also mix and apply some effective microorganisms like probiotics for the garden. And we'll look at how to deal with perennials that can be cut down after the season and the odd weed that might be still popping up. Alright, so what we'll do after we've mowed and mulched the leaves into the lawn is we're going to apply some EM. EM is short for effective microorganisms, which is basically a probiotic, or you could also say it's like yogurt for your garden. It contains all those beneficial bacteria and yeasts that will help break down organic matter and make plant food available in the soil. EM is very concentrated and you have to dilute it with water before you use it. The general rule is to use something like about 100 ml per 1,000 square feet, and these 100 milliliters should be diluted in about 10 liters of water, so the ratio is 1 to 100. So this watering can has 8 liters in it. I'm going to use something like 80 milliliters of EM, which is about a third of a cup. That's enough. So this much EM goes into something like 8 liters of water, 2 gallons of water. And that's plenty. If you use too much and you have very sensitive young plants or flowers, they might develop some spots, and it's better to, EM is pretty powerful stuff and more is not better. It's better to stick with the rules in this case. And then it's very, very straightforward. All we do is we basically try to apply these 8 liters more or less evenly on our lawn area here. Once they're in the system, they will find their way. This is really more of an inoculation. It's not a fertilization. EM is not a fertilizer. It's not a pesticide either. It doesn't kill anything. On the contrary, this is basically a probiotic approach to bring in more biodiversity on a microbial level. So that's it. Took 2 minutes. So another thing I do in the fall is I clean up some of the perennials. I also leave some perennials, the ones with hollow stalks, because insects like to overwinter, but this one here is false Solomon seal and it can be cut down. And when I cut my perennials down, I don't usually take the trouble of taking them to the compost pile. I employ a method called chop and drop. And it means that you chop down perennials and you just leave them where they fall. And then they decompose exactly where they grew and they return the nutrients back to the soil. It also adds free mulch. So it's really both a time and money saving measure, and also it's really good for the soil. So I take them off just above the ground. Gather a handful or so. And then really all you do, 1-inch pieces or 2-inch pieces, don't have to be too precise about it. So the pieces just fall directly where the plant used to stand. Mix mulch Doesn't cost us a thing. It'll all break down and become part of the cover at the end of the season.
It's like making a salad for the garden.
It is, isn't it? It's whole food. It's not... The soft parts don't even need a lot of clipping. My clippers doesn't like them either. I'm just sort of spreading that on the ground. Oh, there's a grapevine in there.
Raccoon salad.
Raccoon salad, indeed. So you can see the base of the plant is still here. It will resprout in the spring. And all I'm doing is I'm giving it a nice blanket of its own resources and nutrients so the soil can also regenerate and grow even nicer, bigger perennials next summer.
And what kind of plant was that?
This was a Solomon seal. It's like a big snowdrops.
Nice.
And it likes the part shade. So that's pretty much it. To some people this might look messy. To me this looks smart and caring and sustainable and progress. Yeah, this is like there should be awards for the best mulching techniques. So this is chop and drop. Drop it, leave it.
That's a peony.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
So this peony is done blooming. I have already deadheaded it early in the summer, took the spent flowers off. Now it's time to take the cord off and cut it down, and I will chop and drop as I did before, which means I will just cut it off, cut into little pieces, let the pieces drop on the ground and replenish the soil with nutrients. So I just grab the whole thing, cut it a couple inches above the soil, and then cut the pieces. And I simply let it all drop right where it grew. And it saves me the trip to the compost pile, provides food for microorganisms in the soil, protects the soil from the impact of rain and the hard frost, and today even a bit from the sun, and will ensure that next year's perennial growth is just as lush and healthy as this year's. And this will really also save you a lot of time. Like if you're cleaning up your yard, it's much faster than taking everything to the compost, turn the compost, look after the compost, bring the finished compost back to the beds. This is not as tidy, but it's a lot faster and it does the same thing in the end. It is the stinking geranium, or Robert's geranium. I think it might have some medicinal properties, but it mostly just comes up in large numbers because it self-seeds like there's no tomorrow. When I deal with weeds in my garden, especially those easy to pull annuals, what I do is I rip and flip. Like with the cleaned up perennials, I don't really bother taking them to the compost pile or having them trucked away. That would be a loss. Just rip them out, flip them over, drop them where I ripped them, and they become mulch. This looks strange probably because most people would not leave this in the garden. They would take it away or take it to the compost or throw it away. But to me this is organic matter which has grown here, which will return to the system and return the nutrients it drew back to the soil, which is, after all, its ecological purpose is to improve soils that are lacking certain nutrients. So rip and flip and forget, and it's really easy. The only thing is you have to keep doing it. Don't let your garden be overrun with something before you start. And these are our dandelion roots. Some people will actually take these, clean them, dry them, and grind them up and roast them and use them as a coffee substitute or to make tea. It's a medicinal thing. So I probably want to save this batch and give it to my friend.